Chapter 24. Finding myself to exist in the world, I believe I shall in some shape or other always exist, and, with all the inconveniences human life is liable to, I shall not object to a new edition of mine, hoping, however, that the errata of the last may be corrected. Benjamin Franklin. Over the years, many of my patients have become my teachers. They constantly bring me gifts of their stories and experiences, gifts of their knowledge and spiritual understanding. Some have become my dear friends, sharing their lives as well as their gifts. Years ago, before Many Lives, Many Masters was published, but after my work with Catherine and dozens of subsequent regression patients, a patient brought in 2 messages for me. She had received the messages in dreams and wrote them down upon awakening. They came from Philo, a person I, too, had seen in dreams and later identified in my first book. This patient did not know about my dream experiences. The coincidence of the same name was interesting. Did the messages come from her subconscious mind? From an outside source, such as Philo? From a forgotten memory of something she had read or heard earlier in her life? Perhaps it does not matter. To paraphrase my daughter, Amy, real is a matter of existence, and it existed in her mind. My messages from Philo also spoke of the mind. To BLW. The mind in each of us can comprehend all other things but is unable to know itself. For let it say what it is and whence, whether it is spirit or blood or fire or some other substance or only so much, whether it is corporeal or incorporeal. We are ignorant of when the soul enters the body. We done good work in guiding beings to recognize that moment. It is a good beginning. Your friend, Philo. The other message came a week later and dealt with the nature of God. To BLW. We must remember, too, that the transcendent being is the only cause, the Father and the Creator of the universe. That He fills all things not with His thought only but with His essence. His essence is not exhausted in the universe. He is above it and beyond. We may say that only His powers are in the universe. But while He is above His powers, He includes them. What they do, He does through them. Now they are visible, working in the world. From their activity we get a clue to the nature of God. IDs Philo. I can perceive great truths in these words, whatever their source. I have met famous psychics and mediums, priests and gurus, and I have learned many things from them. Some are incredibly talented, and some are not. It has become clear to me that there is no direct correlation between psychic abilities and level of spiritual evolution. I remember a conversation I had with Edgar Mitchell, the well-known astronaut and researcher of paranormal phenomena. In his laboratory, Edgar had studied a famous psychic who could affect energies and by doing so could move a compass point through a magnetic field and even move objects by the power of his mind, a phenomenon known as telekinesis. Despite these obviously advanced psychic abilities, Edgar noticed that the character and personality of this psychic were definitely not consistent with a high level of spiritual awareness. He was the first to point out to me that psychic abilities and spiritual development are not necessarily connected. I believe that the psychic abilities of some people increase as they progress spiritually, as they become more and more aware. This is more of an incidental acquisition rather than an essential step. One's ego should not become inflated merely because the level of one's psychic abilities increases. The goal is to learn about love and compassion, about goodness and charity, not about becoming a famous psychic. Even therapists can become extremely psychic, if they allow it, while working with their patients. Sometimes I can pick up psychic impressions, intuitive knowledge, or even physical impressions relating to the patient sitting in the comfortable chair across from me. A few years ago I treated a young Jewish woman who was extremely despondent. She was feeling out of place, feeling that somehow she was in the wrong family. The center of both of my palms began to ache with a sharp pain as I talked to her, and I couldn't figure out why. I looked at the arms of my leather chair. There was no break in the leather, no sharp edges, no reason for this kind of pain. Yet it was getting even more severe and beginning to sting and to burn. I looked at my hands, and I could see no marks or impressions, no cuts, no reason for this. Then a thought appeared suddenly in my mind: this is like being crucified. I decided to ask her what this meant. What does the crucifixion mean to you? Do you have some connection with Jesus? She just looked at me, her face blanching. She had been secretly going to church since she was 8 years old. She had never told her parents about this feeling that she was really Catholic. This sensation in my hands and the connection we had made were able to help my patient break the logjam of her life and to know that she was not crazy, she was not bizarre, that her feelings had a basis in reality. She began, finally, to understand and to heal. Eventually, we found a powerful past life she had experienced in Palestine 2000 years ago. We are all psychics, and we are all gurus. We have merely forgotten. A patient asked me about Sai Baba, a great holy man in India. Is he an avatar, a divine incarnation, a descent of deity to earth in incarnate form? I don't know, I replied, but in some sense, aren't we all? We are all gods. God is within us. We should not be distracted by psychic abilities, for these are merely signposts along the way. We need to express our divinity and our love by good deeds, by service. Perhaps no one should be anyone else's guru for longer than a month or two. Repeated trips to India are not necessary since the real journey lies within. There are distinct benefits to having one's own transcendent experiences, to begin opening up to the realization of the divine, to the understanding that life is so much more than meets the eye. Oftentimes you don't believe it if you don't see it. Our path is an inward one. This is the more difficult path, the more painful journey. We bear the responsibility for our own learning. This responsibility cannot be externalized and dumped on someone else, on some guru. The kingdom of God is within you. Epilogue. I am certain that I have been here as I am now 1,000 times before, and I hope to return 1,000 times. Goethe. From time to time, I hear from Elizabeth and Pedro. They are happily married now and live in Mexico, where Pedro has become involved in politics in addition to his businesses. Elizabeth cares for their beautiful little girl, who has long brown hair and loves picking flowers from their garden and chasing the butterflies that flutter around her. Thank you for everything, Elizabeth wrote recently. We are so happy, and we owe so much of it to you. I don't believe they owe me anything. I don't believe in coincidences. I helped them to meet, but they would have met anyway, even without me. That's how destiny works. When allowed to flow freely, love overcomes all obstacles. Epilogue. I am certain that I have been here as I am now 1,000 times before, and I hope to return 1,000 times. Goethe. From time to time, I hear from Elizabeth and Pedro. They are happily married now and live in Mexico, where Pedro has become involved in politics in addition to his businesses. Elizabeth cares for their beautiful little girl, who has long brown hair and loves picking flowers from their garden and chasing the butterflies that flutter around her. Thank you for everything, Elizabeth wrote recently. We are so happy, and we owe so much of it to you. I don't believe they owe me anything. I don't believe in coincidences. I helped them to meet, but they would have met anyway, even without me. That's how destiny works. When allowed to flow freely, love overcomes all obstacles. Now this book ends here. We will bring more such books in front of you, so stay connected with this channel. Thanks and God bless you.